Hello everyone, and welcome to the second part of my Earth tutorial. So, this is where we left off. I'm going to put an info card up right now so you can watch the first tutorial if you didn't. So you can basically have this. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also liking the video, because this really helps bring the tutorials to more people and help them too. So this is what we did last time. We have lights and everything, and I also took the time to actually downscale the height map so it doesn't take as long to load. Anyways, one thing I forgot in the last tutorial was adding the height map to the bump input. So we are going to do that right now. This is the material we've got. So we're just going to add a bump node, and since we're using Eevee, displacement doesn't work anyway, and we just put this up here and we plug the color into the height, and then we plug the normal into the normal, and now you can see we've got bump. Maybe it's a bit strong. Let me reduce that a bit. We can pull down the strength and it will get less. We can also pull down the distance. Does basically the same thing. I don't really know what the difference between those is, but we just pull down the strength, and maybe 0.1 is good. Let's see it with and without. No, it's probably going to take too much time. Without. With the difference is very small. It's 0.2. Just so we can see it more defined. Yeah, you can see it adds a bit more. Yeah, a bit more depth to the scene. You can really see the mountains now and stuff, especially here in the side. So, great. We got bump mapping done, so that is, of course, sorted now, and it looks much better now. You can really see the mountain ranges here, and great. So, the next thing we need to do is the atmosphere. That's the kind of difficult part, because I don't know if you noticed while making a planet, but Blender does not actually have any volumetric nodes regarding Rayleigh scattering. Rayleigh scattering is the scattering in the atmosphere, which causes the atmosphere to turn red, for example, because blue light is refracted differently than red light and also scattered differently. And this is not easily done in Blender. You can do it in cycles, I believe, with some trickery, and in Eevee as well, but volumetrics in Eevee are even more annoying and complicated than in cycles. But I think I found a way to make it look convincing. Now, what do we need for this? First, we're going to add a volume. So we're just going to add a cube, because Eevee only supports cube volumes. So even if I would have a sphere and I would assign a volume to it, the volume would still be a cube. So I can choose a cube right away. When it scales up, also for the time being, we can let's just turn off screen space reflections. It's just we're not going to need that anyway. And then we can go to volumetrics, and I would just recommend to cranking up the samples to maybe 128, and also the end distance to something like 25 for now. I'm going on, and 1 meter should be fine. So we have more volumetric samples to work with. We're going to tweak that in the last step when we render. But yeah, and also volumetric lighting, well, you can leave that on for now. Right, so what do we need? We need a volumetric material for this cube. So let's select the cube, and let's add a new material. So we do not need the principled BSDF because it's useless for a volume. And we're going to add a principled volume. Technically, you could use volume absorption or volume scatter or something, but put it in volume. But for the sake of it, we're just going to use principal volume. You can already see you kind of have a volumetric shadow of the Earth. Very funny. But anyways, this is not a sphere, right? So we're not in Minecraft, so the atmosphere is actually round. We're going to add a texture coordinate node. Also, I have screencast keys on. You can see that right here. Let's add a texture coordinate node. And then we need a mapping node. We're going to plug the generated into the vector. So what we're basically going to do, we're going to extract sphere, a sphere out of the cube, and just turn the density with everything where there isn't a sphere, where it's not in the sphere. We're going to turn the density to 0, effectively creating the effect of a sphere. This is, as far as I know, the best way to do it in Eevee. And cycles, you can have volumes with different shapes. In Eevee, for some reason, you can't. I don't really understand why, but whatever. And we're going to add a gradient texture node here. And we're going to choose spherical because we want the sphere. We could also choose quadratic sphere, but it doesn't make a difference. For our purpose, at least, it doesn't make a difference. It just changes the fall off. So we got a sphere, and then let's get a color ramp node. And let's see the sphere. So we plug the color into the vector, and we plug this into the density. So as you can see, we have a sphere, but it's in the wrong it's in the wrong corner. We want the sphere to be in the center of the cube. That's why we have the mapping node. And so I believe we have to set it to minus 0.5 meters on every axis. So now you can see it's centered on the x-axis. Minus 0.5, it's centered on the x and y-axis now. And now again on the z-axis, minus 0.5, and it's centered in the z-axis. Now we are simply going to use the color ramp node, and as you can see, we may have to increase the size of the cube more, but as you can see, we've now got a sphere. Let's scale up the cube just so we have a bit more wiggle room. And yeah, that's fine. And now we basically just have to draw the shape of the atmosphere, like how much atmosphere we want, how close we want the atmosphere to be. So for this, you can set it to constant. And then you can just basically play around with the size. I want it to be like this high. And then I can set, of course, the black to exactly this value. And I can drag the white and put it back to linear is enough. Great, so now we have a slight fall off. So next, what do we need next? Next up, we're going to have to give this atmosphere some color, because right now it doesn't have color. This is going to stay in density for now. We're going to have to multiply it later, but we are just going to take another color ramp node, and we are going to plug the color of the color ramp back into this color. And now this is going to be the color input. So now the way Rayleigh scattering works is it basically scatters the blue and green light more than the red light, which means it can't travel as far through the atmosphere. So in the end, where you can see where the shadow starts, there it's more red than blue. How we're going to fake this is we are going to have different layers of atmosphere. And when they add together, when you look from the front, it's going to look slightly bluish, like normal atmosphere. But if you look from the back, for example, you're going to see more red parts because they aren't obscured by the blue parts. Let me show you. So basically the way to do it is you put the red, you put it in the one direction, you put the blue of the atmosphere, and then you make this one white in the middle, so you have a neutral color in the middle, perfect, and the blue of the atmosphere underneath. So now you're going to see, the atmosphere is a bit too big for me right now, so I'm going to shrink it down. And also this blue is a bit too blue. And this red needs to be a bit more red. more red, more saturation. And you can see you have like kind of a red halo around it now. But that's just something we'll have to live with for now, at least. Great. So let me show you now. So we got this. It's not perfect. I'm going to reduce the density of the atmosphere in general, but you can see it kind of turns red, especially when you look from the back. And actually, one thing you can again try to do is increase the red layer a bit, but you have to know that it also like increases the red fringing on the outside. It's not perfectly possible in Eevee. Let me just reduce the density. That's something I have to do. That math node, and let's not add. Oh my god, why is it even? Okay. Let's multiply, exactly, and by 0.5 is already great. That's maybe by 0.3. Great. So now you can see Earth got an atmosphere, and it turns a little red here. So that's the point. Again, you can play around with the effect by increasing this redness slider here. So right now the performance is quite low. I'm going to lower it to 64 again, maybe 32 even. Yeah. So here you can play around with the redness, and also when the blue starts, when the blue stops. It all kind of contributes to the atmosphere effect. But this I think looks good. So of course, if you're rendering, change it to 2 pixels. Just looks better. But right now I'm going to keep it at 4. Great. So we got our atmosphere. Now, how, as you may recall in my animation, I had the sun moving around. And this, of course, you can animate the sun lamp going around, but this is going to be a quick bonus on how to do that. You add an empty plane axis. Yeah, scale it up. Wonderful. And then you parent, first of all, the sun. Yes, you, let's set it to some neutral value. Set it to 0 and 0 and degrees all 0. Great. So now the sun is pointing straight at us. And now the only thing left to do, I mean, you can also technically zero out this one. The location X. Why is it pointing downwards now? Oh. Okay, I got it. Because, okay, let's make it like 1 meter. Fine. And then now, we're going to parent the sun to the empty. So we're going to select the empty, and then we go Control P and Object, Keep Transform. Now we can rotate the empty, and you can press rotate twice to get like a different rotation mode. And now you can rotate the sun. And the good thing is now you don't have to change the position and the rotation at the same time. You can just change the rotation of the empty, and the sun always points at one axis of the empty. Great. And this is basically what I did. So, of course, if you want to do it realistically, just take the Earth, and you have to rotate this as well, because as you may know, the Earth has a rotational tilt of 23 degrees, I believe. So you first set it to the delta transform. I'm going to just add a driver here. Add a driver, and that basically allows you to use the frame. So I'm going to frame, frame times 0.1 probably is enough. Is it? Yeah. You can see now the Earth is spinning just like it should. Wonderful. So now you've got yourself an Earth with atmosphere. You can animate the sun as well. And you have some rudimentary form of Rayleigh scattering that you can use. I hope this tutorial was useful, and especially since it can be adapted to create other planets as well. For example, you could adapt it to create Mars or the moon, technically, even though it doesn't have an atmosphere. This is just general knowledge. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. It's a bit shorter one, but see you next time.